Hello, and welcome to NotesIn9. I'm David Leedy. Episode 161, Learning XPages Part 2, Designer Plugins. It's time to power up. Okay, before we get into the show, just a couple quick notes because I promised I wouldn't get too wordy in this series. I do show the installation of various plugins. One of them is the extension library, the IBM extension library from OpenNTF. I just wanted to highlight that this is built into Domino 9.0 and above. But what you get from OpenNTF is basically updates and bug fixes and some new features and stuff like that. So if you're not actually installing that in your server and you're on 9.0, you already have the extension library. But again, you'll probably want to follow the instructions and have the updates available and work with your admins and stuff on that. But again, if not, then at least you have the base extension library, and that really should be good enough for anything we're going to do in this series. And with that being said, let's go to the demo. Okay, so where we're at now is we've installed Notes and we've installed a Designer and tweaked it, so we're able to, access a server. Here's my Watchtower server. Here's a database and stuff, but there's not too much else going on here. So what we're going to do next is we're going to look at additional things you might want from OpenNTF. Now, some of these might be a little tough to get installed on your server. You might need your administrator. I'm going to assume you're going to have this, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But we want the Domino API, especially. We're going to install the Bootstrap project. There's a logging application we're going to install. There's a Debug Toolbar. Now, some of these things are wrapped up in OpenNTF Essentials. And I'm not quite sure where this isn't the right link here to the project. Okay. So if you go to this project here, you can download and kind of follow the instructions for this and install a bunch of them at the same time that the OpenNTF board and team has deemed worthy. I'm not actually a big fan of this. I'd much rather install them individually. If you did install this, I believe if you installed a newer version, the newer version does take precedence. But again, I'm just not quite in love with the bundle. I'd rather just do it manually. So your mileage may vary for that. So what are we looking at here? Let's come back here. I'm going to come over to this tab and I'm going to make admin because I already have some of these on my server. But we're gonna look at how this stuff works. So if I do Control O or File, Application, I thought it was here open. Here, File Open, Notes Application, same thing. And I'm gonna go to Watchtower. I'm gonna go to a directory called Admin. And gosh, I thought there was more in here than that. I'll have to check. So the first thing is this log file reader project, which does not look like much inside here, but this is invaluable to XPages development. And before long, I'm going to have to install Chrome because this IE stinks. But if we go to Watchtower, I think that's the name of it, and I sign in here. Okay, so this rocks. Okay, so when you get a stack trace or an error or so, it's going to write out here and you can get to it fairly easily. Okay, and here's a class not found exception and something that I bet one of my buddies has caused because I'm not doing anything with REST yet. I'm looking at you, Marky, but it could be someone else. And here's something with my crappy XPages TV site, cannot open document. So you obviously don't want to have these stack traces there, and that's something we're going to fix. You can get to see some console messages. So even if you don't have full access to the console, you can see stuff on here. There's something specific for the Domino API. Errors that it produces, I guess. So again, this is hugely invaluable, whatever the word is. You need this. So put this on your server. It's just a normal database. You don't really need an administrator to do this, as long as you can promote databases to your server. Um, so keep that in mind. Now, the next thing you're going to have on, if we go to Watchtower, is there's an XPages extension library somewhere. That's not it. Yeah, let's do it this way. So this provides the extension library. If you're on 9.0 or 9.01, new builds have been coming on OpenNTF. If you're still on one of the 8.5 versions, I don't believe they're doing any new builds there, but you can go to OpenNTF for the latest one. So you want that. What else do we want? We're going to use the Bootstrap update site from the great Bootstrap project that Mark Lusink provides. That's going to be key. Mark Lusink also provides a great debug toolbar. It becomes a custom control that you can drag on your pages and stuff like that. Mark Lusink, he's like really like the most valuable player in some of these projects. I mean that these are just absolutely great to have. I should mention. Let's go back to here. Is that the extension library has a server specific one component, plugin, whatever you call it, and one specifically for designer. So you need both. You need to get this one into designer. We're going to see that in a couple minutes. Let's move this over here since it's not an update site, because the OpenNTF API is starting to do the same thing. They've got a server version and they've got a designer version. Okay, so we're going to come back here and do API. So this is the OpenNTF API. Okay, so how does this work? Oops. Okay, well let's go to let's see if I can do this here. I am kind of making all this stuff up as I go, so bear with me. A real podcaster would have practiced. Okay, so this is my server. One of them. Yeah, that's it. And it's not running a nice console or so. But what we want to look at here is Notepad, actually. And we're going to open the NotesIn9. Okay, so which we're in here, the Domino INI, I guess I should say. If I could spell it right. Okay, it is actually called Notes. Okay, so if we look in here, um, to get these update sites to work, you need to add a line to your NotesIn9 of your server. Okay, and this is it here. OSGI underscore HTTP underscore dynamic underscore bundles equals, and then the name of your update site databases. Okay, so hold on to that thought for a minute. So if we go back to, if I can minimize this, these are all databases built on an update site template, which comes out of the box. So if we do Control N for new application and click on Advanced Templates, somewhere in here, I probably, well, I don't want server. I want the templates off the server rather than the templates off local. So somewhere on here is going to be a notes or a domino update site. I kind of forget what it's called. There's the discussion templates. There's a document library templates. There's the old domino blog. Now that's not XPages, but there's the blog template. And somewhere here it is. Eclipse update site. Okay, so this is the Eclipse update site template, and if we look at if we put a title in, test DB, test update, whatever you want to call it. So this is, and we're actually going to put this on the server. So this is how you build an update site. You just can make a new one, or the update site template to hold it. And then from in here is where once you download a project, you can often import the local update site. And you open the project and you find the site.xml, and you just import that file in, and then it takes care of the rest. And that's pretty much how you put an update site on your server. But again, you have to use it. You have to tell the server it exists or designer it exists. And the way you tell the server it exists is by that line in the NotesIn9. And so if you notice here, I'm pointing to the API NSF, EXT library server NSF, Bootstrap, and Debug. And they should correspond to here. So here's the API NSF. Here's that external library server, Bootstrap, and Debug. So I'm not cheating here. There's no rocket science involved here. Okay, but now you have to get some of this stuff into Designer. Like this Bootstrap one, which is at just bootstrap.nsf. So if we go into Designer now, how do we do that? File, Application, and what we're looking for is install, which is not being shown here. So that is something that you have to often on a new install turn on yourself. And I'm going to pause this as I go figure out how to do that because quite honestly I forget. Okay, gotta love the internet. So yeah, I just don't do this enough. So to turn this application install on, we have to go to Designer Preferences, and under here, Download Designer, you're looking for this guy right here, Enable Eclipse Plugin Install. That probably should have been in Nathan's documentation, but oh well. So we're going to say OK. And now if we do File, Application, Install. Okay, and we're going to do search for new features to install, and we're going to add a remote location. And this is just going to be the server address. Okay, now this is in. We're going to say finish. And look, it finds it. And there's stuff in here that looks good. We're just going to take it at this level. And we're off to the races. And you just say yes to everything. Okay, we're not going to restart yet because we have more to do. We're going to get the debug plugin. Let's grab this one. Next, we're trying to get that extension library designer one. And these names are obviously, you can make these whatever you want. Get the extension library. And again, IBM does update this regularly, so you do want to stay up to date with the extension library, but be aware that sometimes problems can arise as they update things and change things. It's not as easy as the old days where everything was always just backwards compatible. You do really need to test all this stuff. One of the things that's pretty recent that Designer in the extension library on OpenNTF is they moved the relational database tooling out of the experimental section into the main project. So I guess the thinking is that it's more robust and ready for prime time. Whether it is or not, I don't know because I've not used it. But that's what it is. So we're going to do a quick restart now. We have one more to do, the OpenNTF API, but that's kind of new, a new installation process. So we're going to just do a quick restart for those. Okay, so now if we should have certain things installed. So if we do File, Application, Application Management, and this is how you could uninstall something, is somewhere in here. Here's the XPages Debug Toolbar. So we can see that again. We can uninstall it. The extension libraries, features are in here. Here's the Bootstrap project. And again, we're missing the API at the moment. The API is going to be a little different. The API is going to be a little different because they've recently broken it up into two pieces. So there's the update server update site and the designer update site. So they're actually providing you the update sites directly, which is kind of interesting. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this designer update site for now, and we're going to copy this to our Notes Domino directory, or our data directory. IBM, Notes, Data, and let's make a new folder for update site. So I guess I could put this on the server at some point, but I'm going to just copy it in here because this is just how their instructions say to do it. And we're going to open the update site into Designer, or into Notes. Okay, and before we do anything, I'm going to just sign this. Now, my ID obviously has all the rights needed to run on the server. You might need to sign this with an ID that has rights to run on your server. So be careful on that. Okay, and I'm going to do this. Actions show URLs. And it's blank. It's not supposed to be blank. So we're going to restart Notes one more time and try this again. And this is that database that we just put on there. And we're going to try this again. Okay, this is not working for me. And this is actually the one piece I actually did practice ahead of time. In my practice, I did get this to be blank. I restarted Notes. I came back up, and it was no longer blank. It had the values. What you're supposed to see here is like an HTTP or like an NRCP, like a little Notes URL. And then you copy this Notes URL into your clipboard, and then you come here and you do the file application install, just like we did before, and you paste that here, but it's not HTTP. It's like a Notes or RPC or whatever it's called. So that is not happy with that. So I'm gonna think that the old-fashioned way will work at this stage now that they've broken this up. So I'm going to replicate this to my server. Okay, so it's now on the server. And let's just, one more time, let's just hit this on the server and see if it gives us anything. It does not, because I suck, apparently. So we're going to say Update Designer in the Update Sites folder. So we're going to come back to Designer, File, Application, Install, add a remote location. And it's Watchtower. Update Sites. Update Designer.nsf. See if this works. It may not. Oh, okay. I think this is going to work. If not, Jesse will tell me I'm doing something wrong, but let's hope it works. Their instructions were kind of specific about just you doing it locally. But I don't see any reason why this wouldn't work. Of course, I'm not actually a programmer of that project. Okay, we'll restart that. Okay, now when you do, let's go back to the server for a minute. When you do, oops, I'll sign in here, add this to your server, and you have your update sites in here for whatever you want, your server has to activate it. Now you can down the server and bring it back up. That would work. But all you really need to do is restart your HTTP task. Okay, now there's a good way and a bad way to do the HTTP restart task. I think I've finally forgotten the bad way because that stymied me for a long time because of muscle memory. The good way is restart task HTTP. If you do it the other way, and I don't remember that command, it doesn't actually restart everything it needs to restart. Okay, so we're going to restart that. That'll take a minute or two. And then we'll look in the log, ideally when it comes back up, and we'll see the messages of the activation of the OpenNTF API. And while waiting on that, we'll bring Notes back up. And where are we at here? Okay, so you can see, again, I don't have the good, this is the ugly way to do it. You can see it's starting the OpenNTF API. It's loaded. It didn't like something that I guess there's some configuration you can set. Um, it adds the ZOTS thing, which I'm not too interested in yet. And the server is started. So it should be good to go, this installation of Designer and my server. So we're going to get out of the server. And now what do we have? We have Designer installed with the OpenNTF API, both on the server and locally. There's the extension library is in Designer. Bootstrap, the same update site, it feeds both the server and Designer. And we have our log reader on. Oops, which is again use the website for that, not through the Notes client. And we should really be good to go to start develop. Again, if you're updating one of these things here, what I typically do is I'll delete all the content first, and then I'll import a local update site, which again you just bring down from OpenNTF. You extract it because it comes down compressed. You find the site XML, point at that, and then you're good to go. Bring it up here, and then you restart your server. Or if you update something in Designer, all you need to do is do File, Application, Install, search for new features, and if there's any new features, it will let you know. Right now, there are no new features because we installed everything. Just remember that at least on the OpenNTF API, they are recommending you uninstall it first. So you'd come in here and you'd find it and you'd hit uninstall. Look around and see if there's any other instances of it. I don't think there are, but just uninstall what you have there. You don't need to uninstall the Bootstrap because that's a different project, but the Domino API you would. And with that, I believe we're ready to go. One thing I almost forgot to mention is if you look at the Domino OpenNTF API, this does not actually come with the site.xml, which is what I told you to use for like the Bootstrap and the debug plugin. They're distributing this as update sites themselves. So you can basically copy or replicate or however you want to get these to your server, but as needed. Or if you do have the update site already on there, like as I do. So this is an update site database template. So what you can do is you can go into the OpenNTF server API in that case, and instead of doing the import local update site with this XML, you're actually going to do import database and browse to Okay, when it works. See, that happened in my practice too, and that did go away. So that's odd. But you would browse to this and then bring that, it would just import that database in, which is actually what I did do here. Um, so again, I don't know what that error is or if I'm doing something funky with that. So again, this is a slightly different install mechanism. If this error comes up and doesn't go away, then you could literally just replace this whole database with what they provide. Just make sure you sign it and set the ACL as you want it, because this obviously might be available on the internet depending on where your site is. And with that, really, we should be ready to actually build some kind of application. And that's the demo. If you have any questions, let me know and comment or feedback or email me or whatever. And I thank you for your time.